All right. Welcome back to the From the Ground Up podcast. This is a podcast for Dow Smith Company's employees, clients, and friends. Dow Smith Company is a design build firm based in sunny Smyrna, Tennessee today. We design and build commercial buildings, medical facilities, and churches. And today is a great honor and privilege and pleasure to have Superintendent Josh Beasley on. Welcome
Appreciate
to the
it.
podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, now you go. No,
Just go. Here I go.
no. We were just kind of talking before we got started, and I think one of the things that's so cool about you is, and your amazing wife, much better half,
Yes.
who also works at Dow Smith Company, is that prior to Dow Smith Company, you guys actually had your own company.
We did, yeah. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that, and then kind of how that led into you arriving here with us.
Sure. So it's been, oh gosh, so I've been here 6 years, almost 6 years in December. So I guess it was 16 years ago. I was working for another construction company, commercial construction company, and my wife and I were at church one morning, and I just felt God was leading me to step away and start up a company. And the vision was to bring people back to the table, to focus families on being together. And so I created a furniture company to start building tables. And so Emily and I started doing that full time, and it lasted for 9 years. And so we custom built, started with tables, turned into building a little bit of everything. And so we did that for a while, and I loved every second of it.
And the tables were kind of like a metaphor for like the mission of what you're trying to do.
For our mission of just bringing people back to the table, because we would see it in our own family and people that we were around, that we quit gathering together and having conversation. And so I felt like, how can I help invest into that? And it was to use the gift that God gave me and build tables and to get people back around that. And so that's what we would share with the families that we would build for. And I don't know how many tables I ended up building, but it was a really cool time in my life and Emily's life of just getting to meet new folks, having those conversations over a table, and just knowing that they're still out there and people are still using them. So
That's awesome.
We made all kinds of designs, did all kinds of shows and barn shows and convention center in Nashville. So we did a lot of different stuff. So the furniture business led to all kinds of avenues. So I've always had a passion for it. So.
That's cool. Did that somehow lead you to Dow Smith Company?
Well, I tried to, we kind of capped out with the growth that we could take it with Vinewood Furniture. And so we had a slow December for the first time, which December was always kind of slow. And it kind of worried us for a minute. And I was starting to get a little burnout on it. And I had always heard about Dow Smith Construction Company and knew they were a faith-based construction company. And this was way before I started the company and everything. And so reached out, had a friend that worked for the company, John Key, touched base with him, and I think it was 2 weeks later I had an interview with Trey and had a good conversation, and I was hired later. So
that's awesome.
Always had a passion for construction. It's been part of my life for over 23 years now, and so I enjoy working with my hands, and that's how it led to that. So
Cool. Yeah, and then when you first started, you were doing more like the small projects and...
Well, initially I came on as a construction tech.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so I came on as a construction tech. My years could be off on this, but I think it was a little over a year or so. And then we started up the small project and warranty stuff. And I kind of headed that up, did some sales and just getting out there and getting our name out there and getting some projects started and stuff like that. And then that evolved into becoming a superintendent at Dow Smith. So
cool. So as you kind of think um, back on some of the jobs that you've been a superintendent over, what's kind of like what have been some of the interesting projects, that, especially people listening that are just driving around town, that would be able to like go, oh, Josh worked on that one and that one and that one.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the current project, the Peddler, is probably the most interesting one I've done, just because it's kind of a remodel of an existing building. I've done small build outs up to large ground ups. We did Burn Boot in Smyrna about a year and a half to 2 years ago. Um, but I've kind of done a little bit of everything, really. And so, but yeah, I would say Peddler's probably the most interesting one, just because of the unique. Just again, it's existing, it's older, so it presents new challenges.
Yeah.
So I would say that's probably the most interesting one that I've had up to date.
Yeah, and that one is such I think everybody, it's in such a high visibility area, I
Sure.
guess, probably everybody in town has driven past it. Everybody I know who sees our sign asks me like, what's going in over there? But it's also a unique project in that, that is probably one of the older buildings in town.
Sure.
And then to try to make it into what they need for what they're doing. What have been like some of the big challenges for you in that process?
Yeah, I think the building's from like the early '60s, and so the challenges was, it was kind of a dark space inside, and so we did a lot of openings, created a lot of new window openings, created a large span opening. So then we had to get some structural steel and support the roof and make sure that was all taken care of before we took down the block wall. And we found some pretty cool stuff in the blocks, and old candy wrappers from the '60s, and then just
small beer cans,
yes, that were in pristine condition. But like we cut through the slab, dug about 2 feet down, and found another slab, and we would have never thought that was there.
Wow.
And it was the old, from what we can tell, was the old back patio of the original building, because it has 2 additions to the back of it. And the reason we think that is because we got to the end of that slab and it had a radius on it, and you could tell where there was an old door back there.
You're like almost like an archaeologist.
A little bit, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Seriously, because like you get like what you found,
Sure.
kind of, you can almost be like,
sure.
Oh, this is.
Well,
I mean, it is wild
safe.
to think about that. Yeah,
we found the old safe in the floor. Have no idea what that was for, but it was a safe that was in the slab of the concrete.
Was it open?
It was open, but it was empty.
Ah.
Yeah, I thought I was going to find millions.
More candy wrappers and beer cans. But yeah, so going through that, did you learn anything about like the way people used to build buildings versus now how you would do it? Like thinking about like the block walls and the some of the different things.
Well, we don't do a whole lot of CMU buildings, and that's what this one, the majority of it is. I mean, it's similar, but I mean, we use a lot of metal framing now, and so that's different. And so what we did is we did metal framing around all the block walls, and that was just to make it more flat. Obviously, give us space in the back for plumbing and electrical and stuff like that. But I mean, I think construction's, if you break it down, it's pretty simple. It's all about the same. But for the most part, I mean, it's a well-built building. It's just, I call it the Frankenstein building because it's got a little bit of everything. And but yeah, it's a good building, and of course we're making it better now. So,
well, that's one of the things. You could have an unlimited budget and unlimited resources, unlimited time. Sure. You can't build an old building.
Yeah.
So the only way to have an old
Sure.
building with that character that building has is to go in and do all the things that you guys are doing. So how did you, working with the client, like how did you decide, like, here's some things we absolutely have to keep because of the character
Sure.
of the place?
Sure.
Otherwise you just build something ground up brand new.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you kind of decide what to keep and then what to replace?
I would say in the inside, most of it's pretty brand new. We did have one wall that was pretty close to falling down, so we just rebuilt the whole thing. I would say keeping some of the older stuff is on the outside because they like the look of it. We just obviously we're putting paint on the brick just because the brick is aged, and there's actually a concrete planter on one of the half walls outside on the outside brick wall. They decided to keep it there, and we painted it, and so they'll have this old concrete planter that I don't know how long it's been there. I tried to move, I couldn't even move it. It's so heavy. So that's just kind of been part of the building. So I would say on the outside, you'll see the history with that, and then obviously the landscaping around it, and then they have the old cookout building in the back right that we've demoed, and they're going to use for storage and stuff like that. So I think most of the history is on the outside. You'll be able to see it on the inside from the back storage area, but I mean, you go in there now. I don't know when the last time you've been there, but it's
been a little while.
It's changed quite a bit. It's drywall, and we got flooring, and the ceilings in now, and so I mean it's good bones, but we've covered up the inside, but the outside's still got the history to it.
That's cool. Tell just a little bit. Tell people about the Peddler and what they do. I know they currently have another location over by the Northfield Kroger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
and so kind of what they do, and then when you think they'll be up and running and open.
Yeah, I would say so. Kathy is who I've been talking with the most, the owner. They've been around, from what I understand, 25 to 30 years in that location, and they've just outgrown their space. That's why they're moving over there.
Sell lots of cool furniture.
Yeah, so they're in interior design, sell home decor, stuff like that. They've got just a little bit of everything. So they're going to really fill the space, and it'll look really good because they've just got so much color in their product, and because the most of the interior stuff is white, so it's really going to make everything pop. And, but they've been really good to work with, and been around a minute. And from what I hear, they've got good reputation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're sweet people too. Been easy to work with. So yeah, they come and visit pretty often because they're just down the road. It's literally a minute away. And I've even had some customers come by and just talk with me if they catch me outside talking to me about the store and stuff. So they seem to have
that's awesome. I
yeah,
bet they're all excited.
Sure. Yeah, they've got some sweet clients. So.
Well, cool. Well, before we wrap up, I did want to talk to you. I know one of the, you alluded to it earlier when you were talking about what brought you to Dow Smith Company. Sure. Is just our values. To remind anybody listening, our core values are passion, caring, hustle, and detail. We talk about that a lot. There's, I think, at least one, if not 2 or 3 episodes of this podcast where we talk just specifically about that. But I think one of the things that our clients, not just our clients and fellow employees, and really just the whole world loves about you is how much you care about people. We recently had our first ever banquet, which will become an annual thing, where we've given out awards for passion, caring, hustle, and detail. And probably to no one's surprise, except maybe Emily's, to no one's surprise, you won the award for caring.
Sure.
And I just want to just tell you, how much I've seen that in you, and how much I appreciate that about you. I think the first conversation we ever had, we talked for like a half hour, and I just felt it right then, how much you care about people.
Sure.
Is that something that's just sort of natural to you? Do you feel like, I know your clients see it in you. I know the people that work with you see it in you. I think as a company, it's something that is probably unique to us. But is that a thing that, in addition to all of your construction knowledge, like what role does caring play in your job?
Sure. Well, I would say that comes from my dad. that's the way he went about his business. So learning from him, and then my relationship with Jesus is extremely important. And I know how he loved on everybody, and so that's what I try to do. I feel like I get better production and work from my subs and the people that work with me by building relationships with them. And I do care about them. Like I want to know how they are because I feel like if they're in a good place, they're going to be able to perform well and give good product. And just I want people to enjoy their job and why they're there, because I know that can be, some days are tough. I have tough days. And so I think just leaning in and asking people how they are, and just checking in on them outside of work instead of just hounding them about, hey, you getting this done? What's going on with this? Is just actually seeing how they are. So that's just always been important to me. I feel like that's the best way to go about it is, building a relationship with somebody that it can create good results. And so that's just how I was brought up. I've seen my dad do it. My dad's been in construction his entire life, and that's how he went about his business of just keeping it cool and just again building those relationships. So that's where it came from, and I think people respect it. And I'm not going to change it either. So that's the way. That's just the way I'm going to go about it. I don't know how else to do it. Like it takes a lot to get me upset, and I can get there. You can ask Emily. But I learned from I guess when I first started working we all go through that of like, how am I going to approach my career? Just life in general. And like I said, my relationship with Jesus, it's just molded me into that of just investing in people. And I think, to me, that's the most important thing. This is just construction. Like we do good work and put out good product, but the people are what matter. Our clients matter. So building relationships with them, and so yeah, that's why I do it and have a passion for it. And I didn't really realize I had a deep passion for it until just a few years ago. And I think Dow Smith has really kind of brought that out in me, and doing mission trips and doing stuff like that, just meeting new people, and which not, most people are going to listen to this. I'm kind of a quiet guy and don't, I'm pretty introverted and stuff. But once you get me going, I'm all right to
Same.
enjoy. Yeah, that's the thing, is I got to be pushed into it. And I'm teaching myself to push myself out of that comfort zone and go for things like that. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah. And I think you and I are the same in that the passion, caring, hustle, detail. I think some people might argue with me on the detail part, but I think we'd have those things whether we were working here or we were doing anything else. But I've seen this in you where I think you feel very at home here because those are things that are valued. Like you'd be the caring Josh Beasley that you are wherever you go, but it's got to feel pretty cool to be at a place where like
they encourage it.
Yeah. They're like, we want you to be that guy.
Yes. Yeah. It's encouraged greatly. And so that, like I said, they've come alongside me and helped, I guess, build confidence in me to do those things. And then you see it in the results of like, I'll have guys randomly do something for me or buy me breakfast. Like guys I wouldn't expect to do that. And I think it's because I took the time to invest in them, ask them how they are, making sure they're fine. So yeah, I would say Dow Smith has really helped grow that in me, which I'm grateful for. So that's why the award was very touching and nice to get. So I am grateful for that.
I always say, we're in construction, but really the most important thing that we build is relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And And I just see that with you over and over and over again, the relationships that you build with subs, with techs, with clients, with the community, with the work that you do, even in other countries where you're helping people. I mean, it's just amazing. So, really appreciate you being on the podcast today. And sorry if I pulled too much out of you as a fellow introvert who has to host a podcast.
Let's end quickly. I'm good now. We can keep going. It doesn't matter to me.
But man, I love it. I love getting to work with you, and just really appreciate everything you do. So thanks for being here. We'll do another one again sometime. We'll get Emily to fact check all this.
Yeah, we should do one together. That would probably make an interesting podcast for sure.
And but yeah, man, thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for listening.